Remakes, reboots, and sequels. In the world of video gaming, you cannot turn around without bumping into one of these. Now, game franchises are very powerful and there's a lot to be said for brand loyalty. However, there are some games which really deserve to come back into the spotlight through either a remake, a reboot, or sequel, where it's just not happened. Now, BlueMagus recently made a list of 10 games that he thinks are deserving of such treatment, and it got me around to thinking, what would mine be? So much so that I've actually put a list together for you to enjoy.
Sam's Top 10
Video games that need a reboot, remake, or sequel. Okay, so first some ground rules. Number 1, one game per franchise. Number 2, a game that has already been remade can be included if that remake sucks. 3, a game that already has a sequel can be included if the existing title is not a direct sequel. And 4, bugger it, it's my video, so what I say goes. Also, whilst doing some research for this video, I found out that some of the games I was going to pick are actually due to get remakes in the near future. More Oddworld is inbound, for example. Consider me giddy. Alright, everyone happy? Lovely! Here we go.
Number 10 Streets of Rage.
This game series was the cause of so many arguments and the first co-op game I ever played. It has 90s written all over it, but that's half the charm. Slugging through wave after wave of enemies before facing off against a tough boss with a friend was always a fun time, and the originals still get played to this very day. Sega, I'm torn. On the one hand, I just want to scream, "We need a new Streets of Rage! Your constant re-releases of the original trilogy just aren't enough." On the other hand, I am really scared that you would screw it up as badly as Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 or Golden Axe Beast Rider.
Number 9 Burnout.
Okay guys, what happened to Burnout? Yeah, there's an easy answer, but EA got involved as early as Burnout 3, and that's actually my favourite one. Burnout Revenge wasn't bad either, but things started to go downhill fast with Burnout Dominator. It just lacked the polish and attitude of previous entries. I then completely lost faith after Paradise ditched the game's high-octane arcade roots in favour of open world. It also dealt a fatal blow to the series by removing split-screen multiplayer. The only thing to come out since Paradise has been Burnout Crash, and that's a glorified minigame, to the point that it's even advertised that way. Burnout 2, 3, and Revenge are easily some of the best racing games I have ever played. The formula wasn't broken, but EA decided to screw with it anyway while chasing after a wider audience. Look, guys, you've had your experiment and your fun. Can we please have another respectable Burnout? I want my cornerstone of Friday night gaming back.
Number 8 Lilac Wars.
Hi, Nintendo? Do something with this goddamn series already. I feel like I'm getting teased here. Lilac Wars on the Nintendo 64 blew my goddamn little mind when I was a kid. I'd never played anything like it. I completed it, proceeded to get all of the medals, then went back and did it all again on expert mode. I sank hours into this thing, and every time felt like it was over all too soon. Sure, there have been new Star Fox games, and Lilac Wars itself got remade as Star Fox 64 3D on the Nintendo 3DS, but there hasn't been a proper sequel. Star Fox Adventures was a reskinned Legend of Zelda, and taunted us with brief moments piloting an R-Wing. Star Fox Assault kept yanking us out of the damn R-Wing, so that it could try to be a third-person shooter, and Star Fox Command tried to be a turn-based strategy game. What gives? I'm tired of sitting there and saying, so close! Take the winning formula that made Star Wing and Lilac Wars great, and use it to make a new game on the Wii U. It's that simple. While we're on the subject, if any of you know why the original Star Fox and Star Fox 64 were renamed Star Wing and Lilac Wars respectively in Europe, let me know. I'm genuinely curious. I figure it's probably something to do with copyright.
Number 7 Crash Bandicoot.
Naughty Dog, you make some great games, but please, pay whatever you have to in order to properly own and control Crash Bandicoot. I understand why you had to abandon him. Contracts suck and ownerships get convoluted by them. But just look at what's been done to him. Poor little guy, he was a well looked after pedigree, and now he's sat starving in a rescue shelter. Also, there is a serious lack of colourful, fun, innovative, and family-friendly platformers on current-gen systems. That gives you a gap in the market, and my kid is getting old enough to start showing an interest in video games, so help a guy out.
Number 6. Killarians.
An underappreciated psychological horror game from the PlayStation 1 era. Killarians plays a lot like an old-school Resident Evil title. The in-game models run around pre-rendered backdrops with fixed camera angles, the control scheme is almost identical, so you move like a tank, and it even lets you read documents found throughout the game world in the same fashion as Capcom's classic. You play as a teenage boy called Rion who wakes up in a hospital with psychic powers that you control and influence via the use of specific drugs. Yes, seriously. The game differs from Resident Evil in that it's far darker, more sinister, and focuses more on screwing with your head than it does jump scares. The plot, world, and characters are simply fascinating, and it's a game I've played multiple times over. I'm not going to spoil anything here because it's best experienced going in completely blind. Just do yourself a favour and go play it, right now. Oh, and ignore the dreadful sequel Killarians Ash, that thing is garbage.
Number 5. The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask.
Hey, remember that hoax video that went viral ages ago? The one that showed off a Majora's Mask remake. That was pretty badass. It's just a shame it was a hoax. But if Ocarina of Time got a somewhat half-hearted 3DS remake, and Wind Waker received the HD treatment on Wii U, then there's no reason that this couldn't potentially, maybe, possibly, it's not going to happen too, is it?
Number 4. Banjo Kazooie.
Here's another franchise that has been treated terribly. Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie are two of the finest 3D platformers around, even giving Super Mario 64 stiff competition. The ending of Banjo Tooie practically promised us Banjo 3, and so we played the waiting game for a very, 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 very long time. Eventually, we saw the release of a new main entry into the series, and it was a slap in the face. Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts was considered by many fans to be a clunky disgrace which sullied the franchise's otherwise good name. I'm sorry, there's no other way to put it. As most of you know, Microsoft bought Rare and quickly relegated them to making lousy Kinect games instead of putting their fantastic talent to actual use. I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of the more talented staff have since moved on to other studios in search of work that's actually challenging and engaging. As it stands, a proper new Banjo title is highly unlikely.
Number 3. Guitar Man.
This is an amazing rhythm game that not many people seem to have played. Essentially, you battle with musical instruments to save the world, constantly switching between attack and defense. In the offensive stage, you hold the analog stick in the same direction as a line which will appear on screen, and you press and hold the circle button during orange segments which appear on that line. Trust me, it's a lot harder than it sounds. There's then a defensive stage where you have to press the on-screen buttons as they reach the center of the screen, in time to the melody your opponent is playing. I hope I sort of explained that relatively okay. The game is equal parts absurd, awe-inspiring, and just plain mental. It also has a gorgeous and unique art style, and the single best soundtrack in any rhythm game ever. Fact. There's truly nothing else like it, and I'd recommend that everyone play it if you can find it. A reboot or remake would practically be required to make people aware of the franchise, but the possibilities are endless. New songs, new characters, new worlds. This is certainly a universe that I want to spend more time in. Oh, and before you say it, Guitar Man Lives on PSP doesn't count because it's mostly just a port of the PS2 game. For some reason, they decreased the difficulty, eliminating the sense of challenge, tension, and let's not forget the sense of achievement when you finally nail that hard song. They did add a couple of co-op songs, but they were useless as you could never find another person with both a PSP and a copy of the game to actually play them with.
Number 2. Final Fantasy IX.
It's generally an accepted fact that this old series, it ain't what it used to be. For me, Final Fantasy IX is the best entry in the franchise, period. It was an amazing journey through a vibrant and varied world with memorable characters that you actually connected with. There's a certain magic here that Square Enix have never managed to recapture. I know all of the fans are clamouring for a remake of 7, which they'll likely never get, so my chances of seeing an updated and revamped 9 are super slim. I'd be happy enough if the series could simply return to that level of quality and polish, though. I mean, I'll give Square Enix some credit. Their recent games do look gorgeous, and it's a main factor driving my desire for a return to Zidane's world.
Number 1. Super Mario 64.
From a mechanical and technical standpoint, this is without a doubt one of the finest games ever crafted, but damn does it show its age. This game desperately needs a remake, and no, the DS version doesn't count. Stupid thing making me use Yoshi and Wario. Look at Super Mario 3D Land, Super Mario Galaxy, or even Super Mario Sunshine, and imagine playing Super Mario 64 with those graphics. It would be nothing short of stunning, and it bewilders me that there isn't already a dedicated group of fans trying to make this thing happen. Hell, the idea was so appealing to me that I got hold of the character and item models from Galaxy, and started work on creating the exterior of Peach's castle from scratch, until I realised that I lacked the programming knowledge to actually make all of these assets interact with each other in the form of a playable game. Ah well, a guy can dream, I suppose. So those are my top 10 games that really deserve a remake, reboot, or sequel. How about you? What would be on your list? Also, if you enjoyed this video, look out for a new series coming from me shortly called Remade, Repackaged, Rebooted, which, essentially the title says it all, looks at games that have been remade, repackaged, or rebooted. The first episode will be up by the end of February, and will focus on Tomb Raider, its expansion Unfinished Business, the remake that is Tomb Raider Anniversary, and of course the reboot of 2013.